This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a solicitation for business. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and the guests and do not represent the official position of Title I. Now, let's get into the show. Okay, so for dog owners, finding the right home isn't just about square footage, it's about making sure your furry family members feel at home too.
We're talking to Darcy Olivia from Presidio Real Estate South Valley, the Dog Friendly Realtor, who helps buyers and sellers navigate real estate with pets in mind.
Okay, so now Darcy, to start, how do a buyer's dog's needs influence the home search?
Well, it depends on a lot of times the dogs that they have. So if they are looking for a condo, if they're looking for a townhome, there's likely going to be HOA rules that will restrict what kind of pets can come, unfortunately. There's breed restrictions still here in Utah. So if someone has a pit bull, which I love pit bulls, they are the cutest little squishy things, but there's a lot of bias against them. So dogs, specific breeds can be hard to get into certain HOAs. So you have to be mindful of that before you go in, and other things like if you have 3 dogs, like I have 3 dogs, and it would not be easy for me to find a townhome or a condo that's going to allow more than 2 dogs. So you just have to be really mindful of the rules and the regulations when you're searching for a home and you have pets, because your pets should be your priority over what home you get.
Now, if there's no HOA involved at all, is there still any other kind of rules?
I've never really run into a city that if you have 3 dogs and they only allow 2 where it's been an issue. I've never, so I've never really run into many issues with it, but it is still good to know, just to be aware.
So kind of what is the process you go over with those buyers or their concerns and stuff like that when you're taking them out and they do have dogs with them?
Yeah, so a lot of times they have concerns of they want to be able to walk around a neighborhood with their dogs and feel comfortable. They want to be close to parks or different things so they can get their dog's energies out. And they want to be able to know that the home that they fall in love with is a home that they can actually live in. So a lot of times we will pre-screen a home. So we will make sure that there's no breed restrictions or there's no rules against having their kind of pets there before we go look, because the worst thing in the world is having clients fall in love with a home that they can't have.
Yeah.
So you want to do work ahead of time to make sure that we can actually see the homes.
Have you ever had a client that's looking for a home as a buyer, like want to take their dogs with them when they're going to look for homes at all? Have you ever had that?
I have not, but I highly discourage it. I do not.
Well, dog lovers, I was thinking.
I would love to have your dogs come. And I did have a client who had their dog come along, but she knew that the dog was going to stay in the car. The dog should not come into the home because we are going into someone else's home. And we don't know, they may have severe allergies. They may have kids that have severe allergies to pets. And so we don't want to be bringing animals into someone else's home. And quite honestly, if they found out that you did and they weren't okay with that and you made an offer, that really is going to be detrimental to your offer. Where if you gave them a really bad first impression, they may not pick your offer just because of something like that. So, and I also have had a client that had a service dog. And a true service dog, like a real certified service dog. And we just had to call the sellers ahead of time and just say, hey, are they comfortable with this? If not, we can work it out. But are they comfortable? This dog is severely, that's the wrong word.
Yeah.
Very well trained, will not cause any problems, will stay with the owner. And they were fine with it. So it's just a matter of communication. But yeah, I do not encourage, as much as I would love to see your dogs, I do not encourage them to come to showings.
So what kind of situation do you advise, or when people have pets that they're listing their properties? I mean, there could be orders and all kinds of stuff like that. What kind of steps do you take? Yeah,
so the nice thing is, because I have my own dogs, I know what my house smells like when it's like, we need to clean something here, or a dog peed or something like that. So I am very blunt with my sellers, and if the house smells, I will tell them, hey, we need to figure this out. And that can be, we just need to wash all the dog beds or get new ones, or we need to clean the carpets. We need to do something because there is an odor, and odors are one of the things that will turn buyers off the most.
Minute they open that door, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you get used to an odor, so you don't think an odor is
Oh yeah,
there.
with your own home.
With
For
your own,
sure, yeah.
with your own, and so it takes an outsider to be able to tell you, hey, you got an odor.
Yeah, and I even had one client, they tried everything and they couldn't get the odor out completely. For me, I didn't smell it as much. So I did invite other agents to the home to give their opinion. And there were several who came in and said, yeah, I can still smell a dog odor. And so we were like, okay, well, let's get an ozone machine in there and just try to snap out all of this odor. And that was finally the trick that did it. So it's just a matter of getting, even though I have dogs, so I may be a little more used to it too than I'm pulling people that don't have animals, and that sometimes will let us know.
Well, what do you do with it? I mean, if you're a seller, what do you do? I mean, if I was going to sell my home and I have 2 dogs and I have people coming, what am I going to do with my dogs?
So
What do you recommend I do with my dogs?
yeah, I recommend you take your dogs with you. So always come and take your dogs. I did have a client that we had a random showing come up and she was gone, so she couldn't get her dogs out of the house. So I went and picked her dogs up. I had 2 giant German Shepherds in my car, and we just drove around the block like 5 or 6 times, and I'm just like, they had no clue what was going on. But the dogs, I suggest the dogs not be in the home. It depends on how well they're trained. If people came into my home and I wasn't there, even if they were locked in crates or whatever, they would be going crazy the entire time. They would be barking. They would be super, super noisy. So if your animals are like that, I would say figure out how to get the dogs out of the house. If you have to hire a neighbor kid to just come and take your dogs for a walk or something, just get them out of the house. If your dogs are really well trained, I've been to showings before where a dog was in a crate and I didn't even know the dog was there until the very end of the showing. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's been a dog in this corner the entire time. So it depends on your dog, really.
Well, I mean, like some people, they just don't notice that dogs, they can do damage to a home, chew stuff up and just make things look not so good.
Yeah.
Is one of your, I guess, insights in coming into a home like that, being able to pick up stuff where people get used to their house and they don't really realize that there's some damage done by their dogs?
Yeah, so it's tricky because you don't necessarily want to fix something if you think your dog's just going to cause that damage again before you end up finishing the sell.
Yeah.
So it could be a matter of you just disclose it like on the MLS, or you tell the agent, look, we know that there's this issue. My clients plan to fix it or willing to fix it. We just can't right now because we don't want that damage to happen again or something like that. So, yeah, like I've seen, my dog has severe anxiety and it's super not fun. And when we used to had to lock them in a certain room, he would scratch the door like crazy. So the door ended up being really in bad shape. But we knew that we would replace the door right before closing, but I didn't want to replace it months before or while we were doing showings because that was just going to happen again.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it was just a matter of letting any buyers know, yeah, we will fix this right before we close. And then I could figure out for a few days how to keep my dog away from that door or something.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you don't want to fix something that's just going to cause damage again. But you do have a way to work with agents and say, we know about this problem. We're willing to fix it. We just can't fix it now because we're afraid it's just going to happen again.
So can you share more about the adoption program and how it supports both, home buyers and rescue animals?
Sure, because I'm a dog friendly realtor, I'm really big on supporting rescues in our community and local shelters. And so if anybody buys or sells a home with me within the first year, if they adopt an animal, it doesn't necessarily be a dog. If they adopt a cat as well, I will pay for the adoption fee for that animal. They still have to meet the requirements of the rescue or the shelter. They have to go through their own process, but I will pay for that fee. But it has to be a nonprofit rescue or a shelter in order for that.
Now, I mean, I've never even heard of it. I mean,
She loves her animals.
I love dogs. And
yeah.
before I got into real estate, I was working heavily with a rescue group here called Rough Patch Rescue. And I was fostering dogs. I fostered for about a year with them, and just seeing fostering dogs, just the need that is out there for adoption. everyone thinks they need a puppy or they need, a specific breed of
Yeah,
dog where
I don't think they think things through, especially like
Yeah.
Christmas. Oh, here's a puppy. And it's like, do you
Mhm.
know what the responsibilities are to
Yeah.
have an animal? I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And I just don't think they realize it.
Yeah, and getting him from a breeder, that breeder's not going to support you in any way once you adopt that dog. And one of my dogs is from a breeder, and that's the dog that has the most health issues. So my rescue dog that we adopted, perfectly healthy, no issues, and she's 10. And so I just want to encourage people to adopt from a rescue, from a non or a shelter, because those rescues and shelter are getting them fixed before they get adopted out, which is really important so that we don't keep getting more and more dogs when we have so many homeless already. And then they get all their vaccinations. A lot of times they're already trained before they get adopted, so it's less likely that the dog will get returned and things like that. So I just want to support rescues in the community. So I do kind of encourage Rough Patch Rescue when I tell my clients about this program, but really any nonprofit that they want to go to is fine with me.
Well, you mentioned like when you're looking for, and I didn't even think about this. Like I didn't have a fence in my backyard when I bought my dog, so immediately I got to thinking, what am I going to do with these guys? And so I ended up having to spend all this money for a fence,
Yeah.
which was quite expensive, but I did because I love my dogs. But I didn't really think about it at the time I was buying because nobody brought it to my attention, and I had so many other things on my mind.
Yeah,
So-
that's actually one of the biggest things with buyers, and that's where my mind always goes first. If I know they have dogs, I'll be like, hey, so just so you know, this yard isn't fully fenced. Like when we're looking at a home, like, hey, there's no fence, so just know you guys are going to have to save for that to put a fence in, even if it's a temporary. I've put many temporary fences in my life, in my homes, so I could tell them how to do that. But that is actually one of the first things I always notice when we're walking through a home if they have dogs, of whether there's a fence or not.
Yeah.
And if they're going to need to add that expense in.
Well, and I never even thought also of places I could walk my dog, other than, of course, the neighborhood, but all neighborhoods are a little bit different. Some are probably easier to walk than others. Do you have any recommendations for buyers, some of the best dog-friendly parks around or neighborhoods that seem to be more dog-friendly? Or is there such a thing?
Oh, there's definitely a thing. I have some clients right now who are looking in Daybreak, and this will be my first experience with Daybreak area. A client, I've just never been lucky enough to have a client that wanted to live in Daybreak. And when I was driving around, all I could see was people walking their dogs everywhere. So it was really refreshing to see because they have trails all over the place in there, and they just very, very dog friendly in Daybreak. So that's a great neighborhood to be in. Tooele County has been, I live in Tooele County, and we've been having people for years begging to get a dog park put in, and we finally had one put in last spring. So yeah, people are really excited to finally have a dog park. So there's one there now. There's a great one in Sandy, just kind of over.
There's a little one, yeah, on 90th South. The one that I went to and took my monster to was the one in Draper. It's about 135th
Yeah.
South and was it 5th East or something?
Mm-hmm.
That one was almost an acre and had a lot of room for the dogs to run.
Yeah.
And I know they put a brand new one up on Wasatch, and I haven't taken my dogs up to that one yet.
Yeah, and I'm really annoyed about the Draper one because we used to live right in that complex that's right next to it. And as soon as we moved out, that's when they built that dog park. It's like, oh, that
yeah,
would
it's a
have been
really
so
nice
nice.
park.
Yeah,
It is really nice.
Yeah, I also like the one in West Jordan off of Mountain View Corridor and about 9,000 South. There's a really good one out there too. So it's possible, and I think like in Stansbury Park where I live, you can really easily walk dogs all over the place, just everywhere. I've never really run into a neighborhood that's necessarily bad to walk. It's just a matter of if you feel comfortable and safe walking in the neighborhood.
Well, and the other thing I was going to ask you is that I've occasionally taken my dogs to kind of like dog areas where they're walking a lot of dogs, and they don't react real well. In other words, they're like always wanting to run to the other dog, so I have a hard time walking them. I mean,
yeah.
are some dogs just more naturally suited for dog parks? Or maybe you should, if you haven't ever taken your dog to a dog park, maybe you should take it to a dog park and see whether that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, dog parks can be tricky because certainly they're good for some dogs and not good for others. Out of my 3, there's only one dog I trust at a dog park.
Yeah.
My other 2, no. And I used to take all 3 of them to a dog park, but they have a herd mentality now. And so when they're all 3 together, they will run after other dogs together. So
Yeah.
they cannot go to a dog park together. It's really, and they're shepherds, so they like to like heal the other dogs
Yeah.
by nipping at their, and some owners are like, don't do that. So it just depends on the dog. But if you're going to go for the first time, I would say keep the dog with you on the leash, make sure that, and not a retractable leash, keep the dog with you on an actual leash, and make sure that they're safe and comfortable. And if it's getting a little chaotic, you just keep walking. You don't stop. You just keep walking around the park until they get more comfortable.
Well, all this is really good information because I didn't think of any of this when I got my house, and now we end up driving sometimes
Yeah.
looking for places, and it's a pain in the neck, particularly in the winter. You know,
I think it's become a lot more common. I mean, Utah, we do have a lot of dogs and a lot of, owners of dogs that they are putting in more and more parks because I think it's such a high demand now that people
Yeah.
are like, I want somewhere to go where I can let my
Yeah.
dog loose. But again, it's like training your dog and being
Yeah.
able to know what you can and where you can take that dog.
Yeah, and my dream is to have some more indoor dog parks. It would be so nice because it's too hot in the summer and it's too cold in the winter.
Yeah.
So having
See?
indoor dog park.
Good idea.
When I win the lottery one day, that's what I will do. Yeah,
have a big, huge just warehouse.
basically,
Uh-huh.
it would be nice.
well, do you
Good
find
idea.
out here in Utah? So I'm from the East Coast.
Mhm.
Do you find most people have dogs?
A lot.
I mean, what's the percentage of people that have dogs? It seems like a lot.
I don't know, but I mean, maybe it's because of my brand, but I feel like most of my clients either have a dog or they want to get one.
Mhm.
I am working with cat owners right now. I'm going to sell their house in a couple months and they own cats. So this will be my first cat owner experience. I've been mostly dogs. So they're like, what do we do with the cat? I'm like, I don't know. Like, is your cat okay? Like with people coming in? And they're like, yeah, they just hide under the bed. And that to me is such a foreign concept, an animal that just hides under the bed the whole time. So it'll be an experience.
Well, I've never, and I bought and sold a number of homes in my lifetime because of my age, and I don't think I've ever had a realtor talk to me about my animals.
Okay.
I mean, ask me about my animals,
Yeah.
or even take that into consideration. So I think it's pretty unique that you are the realtor that knows that animals are like family.
Yeah, and I it's funny because I've really been leaning hard more into this brand the past, especially this year, but last year too. And I've had clients come to me because of that, because they're like, our dogs are important to us and we need to know what we need to do. And I've had one that was like, I need to know, does my house stink? And I feel like you're going to tell me the truth. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, well, yeah, sure, I'll tell you the truth. And yeah, so leaning into this brand has been really great because there's such a big, strong community of dog lovers here.
I have to totally agree. Well,
We're all
thanks.
dog lovers.
I know, right? Well, thanks, Darcy, for sharing your insights on finding the perfect pet-friendly neighborhood or home and helping your buyers or your sellers and navigating the process for those furry little friends of ours.
They're furry things, furry family members. They are family members.
Yes, they are.
Mhm.
Thanks so much, Darcy.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.